the and we're live.
And we're live. So, hey everyone, sorry we're probably super late. Deviant witchery time, naturally. Um, so we are down a Deviant tonight because the lovely, dreadful Mystic is out experiencing the wild and wonderful nature and with her family, and we hope she's having a fantastic time. I'm kind of jealous.
Super dope.
Um, and so anyway, me and Michael, we weren't even totally positive we were gonna do a show until like I don't know an hour ago, and we had no idea what we were gonna talk about. Excuse me, I am recovering from crud. But anyway, then we drew some cards and we came to the conclusion that we're going to talk about tools and their usage. And recently, we've been reading and hearing from people in the broader community, I should say that tools aren't necessary. And that is not necessarily our opinion on this. And that is what we're going to talk about. So I will now abruptly hand this over to Miguel and
Oh,
ask him.
really?
Oh, really?
Oh, wow. All right, then. Okay, so yes, we have talked about this before briefly, but it's always good to revisit certain topics, especially when the spirits, ask you to handle something, which they did tonight. And everyone is entitled to their own perception, and hopefully, what we express tonight is going to add some more information to your own experience and to make you think a little more. And I will put up the Q&A, so if y'all want to talk with us and if you have any questions, feel free. But there's a lot of different things that we are going to address tonight. Don't know when or in what order, but tools, are they necessary? And yes, they are necessary, and I will explain why I believe that way. They're not just tools. And yes, this is a bone. Woohoo, I have a freaking bone. But it's much more than that. And it's a connection. It's not just for, aesthetics. It's actually something I work with and something that's just funny.
You work with your bone a lot.
I do. Actually, I worked with it just the other. What was it? When did I do the healing? I've used this in healing, and the interesting thing about this actual bone, this tool, is when I place it in my left hand, it projects, and when I place it in my right hand, it actually pulls away. So, and that's something that I discovered about working with this specific essence, and so I use it in healing a lot because I can put it in the right hand and I can pull out discomfort, toxins, and different things. And then when I'm ready to like feel that area, because once you take something away, you have to feel it. Switch hands and boom, and that's why it's so. And I think that expresses clearly like the importance of tools is because they're not just they're not just things. They contain power, they contain memory, they contain experience. And when you're working with something, you're not just working with the representation of something. It's not just a key. This key has specific energy, and you build a specific relationship with it. And so you have that to go by. I'm going to stop rambling and collect my thoughts, and Mister, you can take over.
And well, me and you have a similar outlook on this. And you were telling me about an article that placed tools as simply aesthetically pleasing to the witch, and that they weren't necessary, and they were just for the look and the candidness of witchcraft, and that could not be farther from the truth. And I laugh at the person that wrote that article. Well, actually, I feel kind of sad for the person that wrote that article. Number one, because it was just bad information. Number two, because if this person actually believes that, it's their practice is boring. Um, tools really, they aid us. Yes, do we have the ability naturally? We do. Witches born or made have the ability to project their energies outward. That is the, I guess, in a very blunt, very vague way, that would be the ability of the witch. But it's not just about projecting energy. It's about, witchcraft is about experience. It's not about magic in and of itself. Yes, can we use magic? Of course. Are we magic? Of course. But witchcraft is the experience. It's the raw primal energy of who we are, and it's just as much a practice in a personal, very, I should say religious, but that's the only word I can come up with, because I don't believe that witchcraft necessarily is religious, but in that essence, it's the experience of it. And the tools have that experience, and they have that energy that holds it, and or that holds onto them, that they collect over time. Um, just like your bone. And yes, the Athame. The Athame is my favorite tool personally, only because my favorite tool in my arsenal is my Athame. It is very much a part of me, and it is very much, um, I don't know the word. I know this is gonna sound really, really fucking nerdy. But if any of you ever like watched or played uh Pokemon games, do you know how like the main character in the show was with his like Pokemon, like his Pikachu, and how they were separate, but they were like they worked together, and
It's like
then
a symbiotic relationship.
it's a very symbiotic relationship. Exactly. That is how I look at my Athame, because essentially when I received it, and I received it as a gift, it had its own energy, but it was very it was a blank slate. And over time, me and the Athame have become fucking partners in crime, because it regardless if it is used in a specific ritual or not, it is with me. And that explains my weird obsession with tools, because they are a part of the experience. Um, they can empower us, they can empower others, they can be used to draw power, they can be used to create power, they can be used as healing, as malediction, in any kind of works of creation or banishment. Um, they are essential, and if we want to go broad spectrum of tools, herbs are tools, um, herbal energies, herbal spirits, the tarot, the cards, the
Absolutely.
everything we use as witches is a tool, and they have their separate animistic energies, and that is why they are essential to the witch, and they are essential in witchcraft. They make it all the more powerful. I can chant on my own, and I can cause change personally. Um, and all witches essentially can, but chanting is only going to get me so far. And if I
Yeah.
use a tool to amplify that energy, or to work it in a specific way, it becomes not only a my effort, but the effort of all the spirits that work with me,
Right.
and that's why I love them. Um, so let's talk about specific tools.
Well,
So I
before
briefly mentioned
you,
the Athame. So since you have the Athame in your hand, what
I
is Athame for you?
shanking a bitch. Actually, before before we do, I just want to express and clarify, like, I have talked to quite a few people. It's not just about that one article that's been going around lately, but I've talked to quite a few people recently after reading that article, and after people have read the article, and I've that's what we're expressing now is based on not just that article itself, but people's expressions and responses to that belief, I guess. And before we do, I wanted to address something because the spirit witch over here, This is a tool crystal, and I got from the Spirit Witch.
Oh, is Rachel with us tonight?
Rachel is with us tonight.
Rachel.
But I kind of want to. I agree, and I want to expand on it. She says. Shit, can't even
She
speak.
says.
She's saying over here, tools are great for use as a focus. Holding certain tools gets me in the mood for some badass witchery. The good thing about tools, you can store energy in them to use at a later date. So I agree, but I also want to say I kind of disagree because a lot of people, like a lot of the challenge with people's perceptions of tools is that they are only good for utilizing as a focus, and that's kind of where we have to break that habit of thinking, because they're not just for focus, because when you see something just when you see a tool and you're like, that's just for focus, it's just me that's doing the work, it's not true. And again, I speak from my personal experience and my craft, but when you utilize a tool, it's not, it's for their alliance, it's for their assistance, it's for the connection that you and the tool create, and it's for the work that you and the tool or tools will create, and cast forth. So it's not just, yes, they that's one of their benefits is, whoops, uh, utilizing them for focus and to focus energy, but also they're great to work with because they have spirits, they have essence, and you co-create with them.
Exactly. And
That was a perfect expression for us to address that. So when you utilize them, when you see them as a focus, that's great, but realize that that's only a part of the whole, because like, and y'all, we all do it, like anything we've had for like a long period of time, whether it be like a freaking eraser, a pen, a pencil, whatever, it has like a specific energy because we've worked with it enough that it has like this, it's just a very personal, and
exactly.
so you go to that specific appliance or that specific tool, because you have that connection with it, and you know that it's good for a certain energy, and that's what you need.
Exactly. And though Rachel expressed what she expressed, I'm almost like I will put my hand down and say I guarantee you there's at least two or three tools that Rachel works with that if not way more, that she probably actually works with in that way, in that symbiotic relationship, without without necessarily thinking about it, because it is very natural for the witch to use a tool in a symbiotic way without even realizing it. It just happens.
Right, and no, and knowing Miss Spirit Witch over here, like I totally get that what she said, and this is kind of where another thing that we have to be more aware of is how we speak and interact, because even though it's weird to say she because she's like watching, so even though you said that and expressed
Right.
that, I also know that I also know that she doesn't fully believe that. She knows what we're saying, and she believes that as well. So,
Exactly.
and we can get into the law of attraction, whatever. But like attracts like. So when we express ourselves specifically, we have to be careful because it can pigeonhole us.
I do that all the time.
I don't
I,
know.
I say something that I'm
I
like trying to
know.
make a point, and then I'm like, well, that is what I mean, but I mean it's many faceted in a statement that I make.
Right.
So it's interesting. And I also wanted to say that before we go into specific tools, I wanted to say that my
Yeah.
practice has actually changed in a recent way, in the fact that I think for the longest time in my practice it was about how to make the next spell I cast more powerful than the last one I cast, and how to cast and how to do this, and then and the longer I practice, and I've been essentially practicing for a very long time. Um, uh, the more I realize that witchcraft is just just as much about the experience as it is the power, and
Right.
it's and that I think it comes with practice that way. It happens. It kind of like flows in you, because I think the longest time we're like in a weird high state where we go, oh fuck, I can use magic. I can do these things. I can bend the will of another. I can change the very course of fate itself. And that is intense, and that is powerful, and that's wonderful. And yes, that is an aspect of witchcraft. But witchcraft specifically, other than any other magical um category, I should say, is about the experience, not just about the magical practice. And there are a lot of practices in the world that require many, many tools and many, many, you know, items and fetishes and totems and
Oh my gosh.
what?
Sorry, okay, not to cut you off, but it just reminds me, like, do you watch the originals?
Of course, I haven't watched season 3, so don't give me any spoilers.
Fuck. Okay.
Anyway, you can. I'll be surprised.
Well, you will, because it's not going to give anything away. Anyway, not shit. Okay. Well, you know Cammy, correct?
Yes.
And Cammy collects, and her family collects dark objects which were imbued with witchcraft, with power. Okay,
Exactly.
So those were tools. But at the same time, and this is kind of in alignment, at the same time, there was a conversation between Cammy and another individual this season, where they expressed to her that your tools are great and they're wonderful, but if you don't know how to like defend yourself, your tools aren't going to be that great to you, because you have to get to your tools, get to those dark objects in order to work them. So you have to be able to defend yourself basically in order to get to what you need, your tools. So it's that co-creative relationship where, yes, the witch needs to, we don't necessarily need tools per se, but we do at the same time. The witch can handle themselves no matter what, but we have the spirit allies of very wonderful tools, and we work with them, and they are freaking amazing. I don't know why. Just something you said just reminded me of that.
Right. Well, people don't seem to think of, and this is no disrespect what I'm about to say. And this is just the way I look at tools. I see the physical object, but the physical object is representative of the spirit that it holds. And it's just as similar as the ancestor or the god or the spirit, and how we work with them as spirit allies. Well, there's no physical representation a lot of times of our ancestor. Our ancestor is not bottled in a crystal, right? But we work with them in a very similar way, in that they aid us in our practice. So when I see a tool that could be this quartz crystal, it's similar to the energy that I work with Selu. It's that co-creative, symbiotic relationship, and that's just how I see tools, and that's why I think they're essential. Because yes, and I agree with you, and I totally agree with your point that we should be able to defend ourselves and hold our own, standing alone.
Yeah, I also see what you're saying too, because it's hard. It's not as cut and clear as that, because when you take into consideration the witch and our relationship with these allies, because once you build a connection, so why do I have to pick goddamn bone? So once this connection is made, you build that. Fuck. You build that energy and you have that relationship. This is just not even going to.
Once you hold that bone in your hand, you're never the same.
Yeah, pretty much. What I'm trying to say is now when you don't have it, like if you are, let's say, down the street, you're not, you don't have your bone in hand, but you've had such a working relationship with this specific energy that you can now call to it because everything is energy. This has life. And so when you connect with it and you are elsewhere, you can call it forth. So you then add that power, that influence, that energy to the witch alone. You know what I'm saying? Like that now becomes a part of you.
Exactly. Well, and I consider this a little bit of like, I don't want to say it's lazy witchcraft, but so short little anecdote. I'm riding down the road. We're in Fayetteville, which is like, I don't know, 30 or 45 minutes from home. And I have a blaring fucking headache, and I have nothing to take to fucking heal this headache. And I'm like, if I was home, what would I do? And I'm like, I may do a working with a little bit of lavender, a little bit of sedative herb, a little bit of pain reliever herb. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I have a intense relationship with lavender. I have an intense relationship with willow because I work with them very often. So why can't I just work with them now, even though I don't have them in the physical? And I did. I brought their energies, their spirits to me. I called to them. I worked with them very, very distantly from where they actually were. I had no physical willow in my hand. I had no physical lavender in my hand, but I was speaking with their spirits, and I expressed to them. I was like, look, I'm in a bind. There is, this is what I need. I need your energies to help sedate this pain.
Right.
And lo and behold, because of the relationship that I have with them, it worked. And I was instantly, I mean, as soon as I called them forth and I was present with their spirits, it worked. And my headache was gone. And that just goes to show that the relationship between not that I'm saying that my herb spirits are tools exactly, but my relationship with those physical objects, the spirits of those physical objects, physical energies are very okay, you smacked your fucking bone. Oh my god. Anyway, so all I hear is like like I see you with the bone. Anyway, it's gonna get real fucking dirty with this fucking bone in a minute. Anyway, my point is that the relationship is very essential because you can work with them in non-physical way if you have a relationship with the spirit.
Right.
And that is why you can see a physical object as, yes, Rachel has a point, the spirit witch has a point. They are physical objects that draw in energy, but the spirit behind them is just as essential.
Right, and that's why it's so important to honor the whole tools being a focus, because once you get to know that focus, when you are able to utilize that, and that is why I will say rosemary or any type of herb or anything is not a cure-all, and you don't need it. You can't make rosemary into a fucking crock pot. No, it's not going to work. And I will be a limited witch and express that it won't.
No.
So
you didn't get that at the local bodega, so.
But I need to just put this away because this is not.
Michael
good.
likes to hold his bone a lot, guys. So.
Well, okay, I'll express. This bone right here was anointed by an oil I created, an oil, and who's connected with the Witch Father. And Yeah, it has a very intense and very unique energy. And so when I when I have it on hand, it it allows me to connect with that specific relationship with that energy. Um, yeah, and it's very intense. Anyways, but yes, tools. Anyone have any questions? Anyone have anything that they'd like to express? Anything that you want us to clear up? You want us to tell us we're fucked up, or anything at all?
Even hate are wonderful.
Just we appreciate all. So
Look,
yeah,
well, what I wanted to go into is like specific tools. So if you go like most people when they think tools, because of our Wiccan-minded ways, we think of the four main Wiccan tools. The thing about it is, we are not necessarily Wiccan, and if you are Wiccan, fucking more power to you. That's fantastic. Have no issue with it. But
11.
a lot of us in the craft are not Wiccan. So there are many other tools that we find sacred. So traditionally Wicca, not that traditional Wicca doesn't have other tools, but what has been pulled from traditional Wicca is the four main representative tools of the elements. So you have the Athame, which may or may not, depending on the Wiccan, be air
It's
or
there.
fire. Um, then you find the pentacle, which is always earth. Then you have the chalice, which is water. And you have the wand, which again can represent
I don't have
fire.
one.
I don't have a wand either, which can represent fire or air, depending on the practitioner. Which again, I would say that the Athame is air and the wand is fire, but
Hmm.
that's neither here nor there. And depending on the person, you could argue till the cows come home about that specific debate.
As long as it
But
works for you,
exactly, as long as it
and
works
you
for
can
you,
make
go
sense.
for it.
You can make
But there
sense.
are other tools that I find essential, like as much as I love my Athame, and it is my like main go-to tool. There are other tools that I work with almost always, like my Cauldron. I fucking use
Yeah,
my Cauldron all the time, and it's not as traditionally like neo-pagan, um, but it's super essential. So I just wanted to go to the non Wiccan tools. So like I want to mention those tools, but also other specific energies. So I asked you about your Athame. So
and the Athame, you don't want to talk about the cauldron. All right then.
put your
Okay.
cauldron down; it will come later.
There's a joke that could be made, but I won't. The Athame, I love this, and I do love the Athame. I love this one. This I've had quite a few, and this is the one that I really like, and I just like the way it expresses itself.
It's gorgeous.
Athame is really good for me. I like using it to direct energy and to channel. What I do when I work with it is it's more like elemental for me. So I will channel all of the elements and I'll let it come through me and through the Athame, and I don't cast a circle, but I will direct energy and I will move things. And sometimes, depending on the type of work I'm doing, if I need to pass through something, I'll utilize the Athame to make incisions, to cut a door. Am I? Did I freeze?
No, you're fantastic. Go ahead.
Interesting. Hmm.
No, your niece just opened the door by herself and walks in. And if no one knows about Michael's niece, his niece, which is my daughter, is a dog. So
Super adorable.
she just
Freaking
walked in the fucking
adorable.
room. Anyway, that's sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You're
It's all
going.
good. But I do love the Athame for directing energy. I think everyone connects with it differently. I use it more to harness and move like elemental energy, like I said. Um, and more so like in psychic surgery, I'll utilize this to kind of create decisions, and then I will pull out stuff. Everything sounds so horrible in my head, but yes, I love the Athame to cut and to slice and to heal, because you can place fire on the Athame and seal shit up too.
Very interesting that you would say that you can place fire on Athame, because my Athame has touched flame so very often. It's a masochist, really. Um, anyway, um, I agree with you. I love my Athame is kind of my it's like a fucking family member. It's strange relationship that I have with my Athame, but it is so intensely powerful. It grows each time that each with each step that I go along my practice. So does my Athame.
Right.
Um, it is present in every ritual that I've ever done. There's probably been a few that wasn't involved in, but it doesn't like to be not involved, so it's involved a lot. My Athame, specifically as the tool, the Athame, when I'm using the Athame, I love to use the Athame, which is gonna sound super odd, in the spirit work. For some reason, my Athame loves spirit, specifically the spirits that are kind of a little bit more
Evil.
evil would be a not really a good word. More of the
Primal, raw,
primal, the ones exactly the
static.
ones that require you to sacrifice.
Love sacrifice.
There are a couple energies that I work with specifically that love pain. Pain is their offering of choice. So I will often use my Athame in that way to cause pain in a weird ritualistic way. And I know this sounds strange, but that is a true fact of my practice. So it's very interesting. And let's talk about um the wand for a minute, because I know you've probably had a wand, but I know you don't currently
How
have
do
a
you,
wand.
how do you know these things? Weird. Before I do, I just want to say I love the Athame, and this like my Athame is on. It has to be on my black chair, and that's a very distinct connection that it makes. And speaking of wand, that's a good transition, because we have another question. I don't hear much about anyone using a staff. Do either of you use the staff in casting? I know it's not the same thing as a wand. No, I don't. I'm really this is gonna everything that I'm really picky I'm picky when it comes to anything, but especially when it comes to woodwork. So if I were to have a staff, it would have to be perfect. Like I would have to it would just have to be right. And I've had a few no, just not it doesn't work. It'd have to be the right type of wood, it'd have to have a nice finish, it'd just have to be perfect. And I'm so ugh, it just yeah. But no, I would love to have one that fits with me. But I've not utilized the staff in any sort of working, just because, and also it's not very. You can't just take a staff anywhere you go. Well, I guess you could, but around here you can't just take a staff anywhere.
Well, it's funny. You were talking about you went staff from wand.
Well, because we had a question about a staff, so we can go from staff to wand.
Well, I'm gonna briefly mention wand. I don't have a wand. I've had a wand in the past when I was a baby witch, and I thought that every witch needs a good wand, and I just love the energy surrounding it. Just because I'm a huge pop culture witch fan, and pop culture witches have wands a lot of times. So I thought, well, I should have a wand. I have made wands, I have ordered wands. No wands connect with me well, and I think that it's going to happen. It's just not happened yet.
It is totally gonna happen.
So, as far as staff staffs go, I've had staffs, many staffs in the past, but it was like for the moment. It was a small relationship that I had that all relationships come in your life. Some stay and some come into your life and then move on. Why are you laughing?
Rachel is an
What
asshole.
did Rachel say?
I'll show you later.
Okay, anyway. Uh, okay, so anyway, my point is that I have had staffs in the past, but currently they're not necessary. I actually knew I was a huge Raven Zell fan when I was a younger one. Um, and for all those that don't know who I'm talking about, he's very famous in the neo-pagan community. His name is Raven Zell or
Oberon.
Ravenheart or Oberon Zell or Oberon Zell
He's really
Ravenheart.
fascinating. Like
He is incredibly fascinating. He goes by many names, but essentially Oberon or Oberon Zell has been his current name. Ravenheart was added later, but people will call him Raven Zell or Oberon Zell, whatever. I actually took classes with the Gray school when I was younger. He's incredibly interesting. He refers to himself as a wizard, which I thought was fun and interesting. And it was the Gray School of Wizardry, which also obviously taught witchcraft and wizardry. By his definition, was witchcraft. It was just called wizardry because he liked it and he refers to himself as a wizard. He has a staff that he works with, and he is so connected with the staff that he has a special a package that he not really a package, I guess it would be a casing that he actually, when he has to fly to different places around the country or around the world, he actually encases his staff and it like flies in its own case. And as soon as he gets off the airplane, that's the first thing he collects is his staff because that's the relationship that he has with his staff. And so I thought that was incredibly interesting that you were talking about staffs, and that's my thought in my head was I can see his staff so easily in my mind because it's like his favorite fucking magical tool.
right.
But exactly. Briefly, and I think this is one that I think we probably should talk about, but I've not really used all that much, and that would be the altar tile or the pentacle.
I don't. I don't. Like I I've never. Okay. Honestly, I never understood the necessity for an altar tile, like the pentacle. I mean, the pentacle, it's everywhere. Like, I understand that, but I don't understand utilizing a tile to represent it.
Exactly.
When you can use like chalk, or you can use something that's not gonna. I don't know. I don't work with it that often. Probably because when we consider the element of earth and we channel its energies, we don't necessarily need that tile. Not that we need anything else. I guess we can. I don't know. I just always felt like it was easier for me to channel that energy and call it forth and utilize chalk or salt or whatever else, like herb, to create it. But I honestly don't even create it. Like,
I mean, I have one.
do you?
I do. Lindsay actually got it for me for Yule one year.
How adorable!
It was a soapstone. Like, it's gorgeous. I love it. And does it stay on my altar because it has personal meaning for me? Yes. But do I work with it in the traditional sense? No, because it's not something that has really collected a spirit for me and has invaded me with its energy. It's very mild energy.
Right.
Very different than what it actually supposedly represents. Because it supposedly represents the earth, which is an intense energy, right? So the altar tile specifically in Wicca, because this is not, you do not find the altar tile in traditional witchcraft. It just doesn't exist. The necessity of it doesn't exist because in traditional witchcraft, our altars are outside, our working space, our sacred space, it's outside, it's in nature, it's that all encompassing energy. So we don't actually really have the necessity for the earth element to be represented in a specific tool.
Right.
But essentially, that was a place that was for blessing. The cake and ale, you were supposed to bless it on the altar tile and on the pinnacle. So I find that interesting. But no, I agree with you. I don't use it.
So Mama Gaia says no, thank you. Don't need it.
That bitch is fucking moving in weird ways, okay?
I know.
Every time you would like move it, her fucking head moved. And it wasn't the statue.
We're not. Yeah, she. Yes. Anyways, yeah, I don't use the pentacle tile, which if you do, that's wonderful. And if you utilize it, let us know. Like, how do you work with it, and do you have a connection with it? Because I've noticed myself, like, I have connections with all my all my tools, and they're very strong and different. But when it came to like a tile, like a pentacle, no, I got nothing.
Right.
But what was I going to talk about? Oh, well, we can talk about the Cauldron in a second. One of my favorite tools, where did I get this from? I don't know where, weird, is, speaking of pinnacle.
Oh, the pestle, the mortar, and the pestle.
Yeah, I dropped, can you see? I dropped the arrowhead and it broke.
Oh, no.
So now it's going to get fucked up. But I love utilizing this because I create a lot of things, and these I have quite a few, but I collect them, not necessarily collect them to have them. I utilize them because they all have specific energy. Oh, put this over here. And I don't want to jack that up. Like, if I'm using one for malediction, eventually it holds that energy, and I'm not going to use that for love work unless I'm fucking someone's love life up. Like,
right. Well, let's talk briefly, because you have mortar and pestles, and you also have a more brujeria tool that is similar. Let's also talk about that while you're talking about the mortar and pestle.
What do you mean?
You very well know what I mean.
Fuck, you're gonna make me get. This is fucking heavy shit.
It's heavy as shit. I'm sorry.
Okay, this is like the smaller one. It's the Molcajete.
Molcajete.
Right here. And if you don't season this shit, you're fucked. You have to season it. So some of them come pre-seasoned, which whatever. You can season it yourself, and it's
right.
Oh fuck. That's okay. This is a witchy boosting powder. I don't know. I dropped that on my laptop. But yes, I love these things, and I like them more than I like the one I just showed you, because this has, when I utilize this, I definitely connect to ancestry, and I definitely connect with like something more primal. This, when I work with this, it allows me to channel easier too. The others, like the one I just showed you, I know, I love you, it's okay, but it feels lifeless. Like, it doesn't have as much like personality, or there's not that much distinction. It's almost like blank. So you have to, eventually it'll build a personality once you start working with it more, but I don't know. This right here is beautiful. It allows me, when I connect with it, boom, I formulate, I can create, and it helps me to connect with the spirits. I listen, and it's a very powerful tool. And if you need to, okay, I'm gonna ramble a little bit. If you need to create not product, but like something like an oil or a herbal blend, whatever. If you need to create something, even if you just need to cast a spell, a really good way to do that is to get one of these and start working with it. And even if you don't, have anything, throw some rice in here and start grinding it, and then just like meditate and focus, and shit will start coming to you. Like, what do you need? And focus on the type of spell you're trying to create, or your desire, your need. And when you do that, energies start to speak, things start to fall in place. And yeah, I rambled, sorry. Anyways, I love this shit. This is like a very sacred tool.
Well, you know, I'm white, so
I
not that
didn't
you can
notice.
but molcajetes are not something that in my ancestral culture that they use. Mortar and pestles are really more standard. I have two. I have a granite mortar and pestle that I use for witchcraft and all things delightful, and then I have a wooden mortar and pestle that I use for everything else. So if it be a actual medicine that's not really well, all my medicines are kind of well, they are all my
Yeah.
medicines are imbued with magic, but essentially my version of that was I'm going to use the wooden one for medicine and I'm going to use the granite one for magic. They flip flop. Sometimes the granite one screams at me and is like, "No, you need to use me." Um, the wooden one, oddly enough, is the more mild one, and it's like, well, you know, whatever. If you, I would be delighted if you used me, but if not, whatever. I think the brilliant thing about Molcajete and the Mortar and Pestle is that they have a beautiful way of combining spirits. Um,
Well,
you can put separate energies in exactly. You can put separate energies in the mortar and pestle, and when you're done creating that blend, they are a culmination of that. And it's funny that you're like because they are very
well,
phallic.
it is.
It's very phallic and feminine. So you have the masculine and the feminine in in way. It's very much the great right
Yeah.
while you're working with it, and you just work. And I love how you say that it's very ritualistic because it is. Because if any of you know what it's like to fucking grind something that doesn't want to
Oh,
be ground, it's like a fucking process. You have to really lose your physical and go spiritual and just ritualistically do it because it helps you
yeah.
um it helps you escape the actual physical labor of it, and it becomes a part of you and you become a part of it, and it's an intense energy. And I can't think of it. I love the dish molcajete, like the food, like
Mhm.
the Mexican dish
That's,
molcajete, like it is delicious. So
those,
every time I hear molcajete, I think like a beautiful blend of amazing energies in so many different ways. So I
my,
love that you use the molcajete. I want a molcajete, but I don't have one.
I'll let,
And
well, wait till
I'll
you,
I'll
wait
just
till you
use.
play with
I
this
love your
one.
big one though. Your big one is better. I'm not gonna make you get it, but just know everyone, his big molcajete is amazing.
Wait till you play with this. I'll let you play with this. Don't worry.
Yes, when you
Uh,
when we're together in the physical, I'm gonna touch your molcajete.
I made this beauty in the larger one. But yeah, they're really they're awesome. They're extremely awesome, and y'all should get one. They're fun. They're super lovely. And I think that's a tool that people, witches, don't really give enough credit to.
Oh yeah.
Because I'll go to that over pretty much mostly everything because that helps me to brainstorm. That helps me to channel, like, it helps me channel very well. And then it just gets all these, creative juices flowing. And that's kind of my time where I connect and I listen to spirit and what am I supposed to do? What's being asked of me? Yeah.
Well,
So,
okay, let's combine, but just because of time purposes, and I want to kind of cover three more,
all
but
right
for
then.
time purposes, let's mix Chalice and Cauldron together, which is odd because they're very very different. But let's talk about them together. And yes, I'm gonna light a cigarette. Yes, I know it's unprofessional. Yes, I know it's bad for me. None of y'all bitch because I'm a little
This
drunk.
is what I have to say with anyone who has an issue. People freaking smoke, and I'll give them shit later, so it's fine. Um,
I know it's terrible for me, so don't even try to waste your breath and
Anyway,
comment.
it's all good. It's fine. Cauldron
Cauldron.
and Chalice.
Chalice. Chalice.
Chalice. I feel like Ron.
So let's tackle Chalice first.
It represents some fishy shit.
Which is fantastic.
I guess. So, my chalice has shit all over it because sucking this down like crazy. Anyways, the chalice, I really don't work with the chalice that often unless I'm pouring wine and drinking it. Other than that, or this. I don't really.
Do you know the only time I use a chalice? Beltane. Which is coming up because I actually when I work with Beltane, and my chalice, my ritual chalice, is a fucking mason jar. So just so we know, because I'm from the South.
I love that. I'm
from the South, so my chalice is a mason jar. Whatever. I don't need a fancy, like, beautifully pewter chalice. My chalice is a fucking mason jar. And my chalice and my Athame know each other very well. Why? Because once a year on Beltane, they have sex. So I do represent the Great Rite in a ritualistic form with the Athame and the chalice. That is one of the most brilliant, most ritualistic things that I can honestly tell you that Wicca has brought to my life. That I have used since I ever found out what the fuck Wicca was when I was like 13 years old.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the only time I really use a chalice. Other times that I have used a chalice, I will mix things in the chalice for blessing. For that particular, if I need that watery energy, which my chalice holds, I will use that for blessing of a mixture in the chalice. But other than that, the Great Rite is really when I use the chalice.
Well, the chalice is really good to channel like the submissive and to channel more emotional shit. If you want to, okay, fine. If you want to create like a formula, like a sex formula that kind of you want to release inhibitions and get people on the same page, because some people are very scared or they're nervous like the first time, whatever. People just need to like let go and have fun. You can utilize a chalice and a key.
Of course, and when we're talking about the chalice, and I have chalices or goblets or whatever you want to call them. My sister gave me this for my birthday this year, and I love it because I drink out of it a lot. But it is almost specifically for alcoholic beverage, and I think that is amazing in a way because the chalice is really about that release, and it's not so much, it is submissive, but it's like intentionally submissive,
right?
So you submit to those voices that tell you not to do something, and those inhibitions released. That is what the chalice really represents a lot, and that's why I use alcohol for this specific chalice, because it really helps to release those inhibitions and release those fluid energies that our brains, for some fucked up reason in this society, wants to inhibit. The chalice helps to release those inhibitions, and that is for something so oddly mundane as a cup. It can represent so much more, and it can be that's like taking the mundane and making it arcane. And that's what the chalice represents for me.
And just to expand a little on submission, because people think submissive and they think like powerless, and that's not true. There's power and there is even domination in the act of submission, and people need to understand that. As witches, we have to understand the power in allowing ourselves to submit, because there is control in that. There again, I'm going to repeat myself, there's power in that. And that's why this is very unique to me. I don't utilize it often, but this expresses that power and influence of submission, and how beautiful it can be, because once, and as witches we know, once we allow, like when we're casting, once we allow that power to flow through us, and we let go of it, and we release, and we become it, we step into it, we step into that intensity, a lot of shit happens, and we feel strong, we feel connected, and that's kind of what this represents. So, and mine is full of water.
Well, you know, Jesus made water into wine, and this is Easter.
That's what I do.
Whatever.
And so we have the cauldron.
Oh, the beautiful cauldron.
I have some work going on. This is a blessing that
Am I in there?
You're in here.
Whoop, whoop.
I got quite a few people in here. People important to me, people I care about. So the cauldron, I love. I just love it. I love the cauldron. I work with. Ooh, it's a $2 bill. You talk about the cauldron.
I will talk about the cauldron because me and you have different uses for the cauldron. You use the cauldron a lot for blessings, and I use the cauldron a lot for banishings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting. The cauldron for me is the culmination of all the elements. You have the receptive energies of water. You have the forging energies of fire. You have the metal energies of the earth. And you have the fumes that come from the fire as air. And it is super intense for me. When I use a cauldron, I use it in the fire rituals, but they really are captivating of all the elements. I will light a cauldron in a fucking heartbeat. Almost all of my rituals that require banishings, I light the cauldron for, and it's very, very simple. I get very intense alcohol, be it like pure rubbing alcohol or a very high octane like moonshine, and I will light it, and the cauldron becomes this intense liminal energy where it takes of it what you do not want anymore, and you allow it to burn away what you no longer need. And that is what I use my cauldron for so often, which is very interesting because you use the cauldron to really imbue energies and to create and to manifest. I get rid of energy. So let's talk about that.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's do this. Ooh, that's good. Okay. I utilize the cauldron to bless and to open the way and to create, like, to uplift and bring positive change. Not that I can't use it for other shit or to banish, because, you know, that's fun. But again, I do. I love the cauldron because it's a great container, and like you said, it brings all forces. It's not just, you know, earth, air, fire, water. It's also spirit, and it's very divine. So it calls for everything because you have all these elemental forces that are utilized in creating it, and then it's a cauldron. It stores shit. It can represent the womb in a sense, and it's very divine, sacred. So you have the spirit element as well, and I enjoy utilizing it for blessing work because of that. Because when you bless someone, when you call forth energy to create something in a positive way, the best thing you can do is make sure that you have all have your ass covered. You want to make sure you have all aspects covered, and what better way to do that than something that has it all, and not just that, but it stores shit in here really well. So when you're utilizing it to bless, it also has the power and the influence to contain something and maintain it. And that to me is very important, because when you're doing work like blessings and stuff like that, you want it to be maintained, you want it to last long, you don't want it to break. And so that's why I work with the Cauldron for that, because more often than not, in my experience for myself, the work that I do, the Cauldron and the work that I do with it does not break, and it's well rounded.
Right. So we have covered the
there's one
traditional tools of the
witch.
Let's talk about the traditional witch.
Let's talk about the traditional witch.
Let's talk about briefly. I want to mention the tools of the traditional witch, and depending on the traditional witch, because it's not a specific, and that is essential when we talk about traditional witchcraft. It is not a specific tradition.
No.
Oddly enough, because of the name traditional witch, it really means the witch of the old ways. And what we practice now is modern traditional witchcraft, because obviously it has been named that. But traditional witchcraft really roots from a time where it's very primal, very old, very you use what you have. So in so many ways, the hoe, the plow, no, I ain't talking about you. The the hoe, as in, rowing the hose. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like, exactly. The plow, the rake, the pitchfork, all of those can be tools of the traditional witch. When we talk about traditional witchcraft, those were the witches that lived in the rural areas that used whatever they had as sacred items. And they used them in a dual way. They used them as fucking tools, as in, like, working outside, and then they used them to also encompass the energetic properties that they also could hold. So really in traditional witchcraft, any tool can be a traditional tool. But the one thing that is not derived from a actual tool is the stang. Let's talk about the stang in traditional witchcraft, and what is the stang. And it is something that not everybody knows. If you are a practitioner, I'm a little drunk right now. A practitioner of traditional witchcraft, you know of the stang, but if you're not, then you have no idea what it is. So let's talk about the stang.
Please do. Why don't you, since you're like all hunky dory over it, go ahead and talk about fork.
Well, I don't have a personal stang, but I often use the stang. So the stang is essentially it's a what is that? What is that? What are you doing?
I don't know. It's a sting.
That's not a sting. This is a sting. Or more often, this is the sting.
I know, but that's kind of hard.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, the stang, traditionally, yes, it can be a 3-prong. Yeah, I see that. It can be a 3-prong, but in my practice, it is a 2-prong. The stang represents the horn god. It represents the devil, and yes, heaven fucking forbid I call him the devil. But the horn god, the old one, the god of the wild wood, that is who I'm speaking of. If you don't like me talking about the devil, then in your mind, when I say the devil, you say the horned one or the horn god, whatever, I don't care. It's the same motherfucker, okay? And the stang represents the horn god.
Kinda.
And it represents the Witch Father.
Yes.
And it is the power of taking the Horn God's essence and bringing it upon you in your area, your sacred space. And that's really what the stang represents. The stang is a 2 or 3 pronged wooden, normally wooden, it can involve metal, but normally wooden item that draws the energy of the Horn God to you. So it represents in your sacred space the Horn God. And the devil or the Horn God in traditional witchcraft is the main. I will say deity, but I don't really represent him as the deity so
Right.
much. But he is the main essence that you would work with in traditional witchcraft, and he is the intense energy that you find when you're all alone in the woods and you feel like someone's watching you. He represents the god of the crossroads, the god of the secret places, the god of the wildwood, and the god of the places in between every other fucking place. He encompasses almost everything you can think of, and that is the Witch Father, and that's what the stang represents. And it is a very traditional witchcraft centric tool. And traditionally, you would put it at the north of your circle or the north of your compass. And I prefer the term compass, but essentially, it is a circle that you create of the 4 cardinal directions, and the stang stands at the north, and the stang at the north represents the earth and represents his energy and represents his power, and is drawing that essence, that witch essence, to you, and that wild, primal, raw energy that we as witches have. That is what the stang represents for me. And as far as a permanent stang, I do not have. When I go into the wild, I will find a stang. Weirdly enough, it always fucking happens because it is essential to the compass that the stang be present in my practice. That is not the case with every traditional witch. Don't get it twisted when I say that this is essential. It's essential for me. I will find a stang that is naturally occurring in nature, and that is where the compass point is. Because once you point north, you know every other direction, and it just works. Don't fucking ask me why. It just is. Because it really takes it from being just a circle to a sacred space of power, where you draw him in, and that is your sacred space. That is your working space where his energy is present. And the stang is essential in my practice when it comes to working with the Horn One or the Witch Father or the devil, which I prefer. I prefer to call the devil.
I do too. Well, that's kind of what. So that's the distinction. One of the many distinctions between casting a circle and the compass. Like that's because when you do the compass, when you utilize a stang, that invites his essence, and his essence, again, like you express when you're out in nature and you feel like something's watching you, and there's no one there and there's nothing there, but you feel it intensely. That's him, and we all feel that, and we've all felt that alone.
Exactly.
And he's watching, and he's there, and he's present, and a part of you is scared, but at the same time, a part of you is very like thrilled and excited, and you have that adrenaline, that energy like pulsating through you, and that's powerful, and that is witch. And so when you utilize that, and you utilize a stang to call that energy and to place it and to invite it and to shift your area that you're working in, it's so different than just casting a normal circle, because in a normal circle, most people don't even utilize that type of influence, that sort of energy. They just make up a rhyme and throw that shit together and call it good. And it's different. It is so different. And so that's so hard to explain, but that is a distinction that needs to be felt, because when you channel that energy, when you call that energy forward, you immediately step into a different place as a witch. You step into a different practice, because when you feel that and it overcomes you, and you submit to it, and it's different, and you just see things a lot differently, and it's a very powerful tool to work with. I don't have my own. I've utilized, like I said, like in nature, like if I needed one, it would be provided, but I don't have one that I utilize always.
Right.
But
I want one.
I'm like a staff, like I'm really picky, so it'd have to be perfect. It'll happen, but not until I move.
Right. I feel like that it will happen, but like as of right now in my practice, I don't think one's come to me, and I think it will happen, but it's not current with the energies. So
absolutely. So, do y'all have any questions? There are quite a few of you watching, like little peepers.
I'm very curious as to what the Spirit Witch said, so I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah, I will show you what the. Oh my. So, do y'all have any questions? What?
We should have just brought her on tonight.
I know. I don't know. Shit that comes out of her mouth. Shoot.
I just love her accent. I love Rachel and her accent. It's fantastic. But I feel like we would all speak like this the entire time. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
It would be fantastic. I really feel it would be amazing.
It is what it is. Okay, so if y'all don't have anything to say, we become an extension of who we are. And so whenever we travel, whenever we move elsewhere, whenever we practice elsewhere, we have a plethora of tools connected to us, and we are able to utilize that experience and that energy and that spirit anywhere we go. So remember that it's, again, if you're just getting shit for looks, throw that shit out. You don't need it. But if you're utilizing stuff, if you actually have a call to utilize something, and you're can't fucking utilize shit. Anyways, can't stop saying utilize. That's my word of the night, I guess. But if you're gonna use it in your practice, then by all means get it. But if you're just gonna get it for looks, don't bother. Don't waste your money. Get something that you're gonna actually work with. But tools are, on many levels, necessary. And I can't say more because, anyways, shit.
Let's not say anymore. Let's cut it off.
We are going to cut it off. So, until next time, I hope you all enjoyed the freak show.
Yeah, that's exactly what this shit it was. But it was fantastic. And I think that what we expressed tonight could, if you looked at tools as just objects, the fuck was that? We have to go. Anyway, if you looked at if you looked at tools as just objects before, I hope we really have changed your outlook, that you can utilize those tools in your practice and not just for aesthetic means. So, anyways, without further ado, I'm gonna slap the fuck out of you.
Do you want to know what this sound is called?
What is it called?
It's called rim shot. Okay, y'all, we gotta go. Peace out. Have fun.